There we go. Took fucking forever, dude. I couldn't get a goddamn connection earlier. Alright. Alright now. Alright, good. I don't know what it was. How's everyone doing? Did you get snowed today? We got some snow. I don't know if we got as much. I don't think we got as much as they said, though. Yeah, I wish I had more to report here. So I think, are we supposed to get more snow later? It seems like all that hubbub for nothing, really. It is freezing cold, though. Anyway. Yeah, I watched one episode of Battlestar Galactica so far. Yeah, my car doesn't do well in the snow, so I'm gonna be snowed in here at least for a few days. Thank God I've got bunches of soup and groceries if I need it. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about today's events. It seems another unnecessary thing, right? Uh, I don't necessarily see why they had the justification to kill the guy again, but one of the videos does look like one of the cops is walking away with a handgun, right? Which is interesting because if they disarm the guy, what justification is there to shoot him? It seems like probably what happened, and I don't know for sure, but one of the guys, yelled, "Oh, he has a gun." The other cop reacted based on what the other cop said, not realizing that he didn't like actually pull a gun out or anything. Some people are saying he did, but I have yet to see um, one frame of footage to say that he has somehow. I mean, the guy looks like he's being rowdy. I can't even tell watching the video though, which like he was trying to like put someone in a headlock or something. Yeah, I don't know. Seems weird. Government too quick to label it domestic terrorists. They're already saying it's something that it's not. This wasn't like a thwarted mass shooting or anything. This was a guy there, and things clearly spiraled out of control. Like you cannot state some like any constitutional scholars want to speak up here. Like the idea is you're gonna say that there's a criminal intent behind possessing a firearm lawfully. Yeah, that's retarded. That's not the precedent that has been set for anybody else. Um, Legally carrying a firearm, no matter the circumstance, is not an intent to commit a crime. I mean, it does place you in a slightly more risky. It's slightly more risky to behave erratically that way, you know, because cops are trained to react a certain way or whatever. But um, at the end of the day, it's like, would that guy be alive today if he were there just unarmed? And yes, no, maybe, but like one of the videos does appear to show a cop. Um, and some of this shit could be conspiracy theories too. I don't know for sure, but one of the videos does appear to show a cop remove the firearm from the individual like seconds before he was shot and killed. So it does make you wonder what the fuck that's about. Um, so that's another one of these kind of. It seems like they were probably behaving a little too aggressively, and at some point in time, it seems like the guy that got shot was behaving aggressively too. But I don't know at what point in time that amount of aggression justifies deadly force. I can't say. I don't think that if they did disarm the guy, look, yeah, it's a tough situation, isn't it? If they disarmed the guy and they then shot and killed him, like, come on now, yeah, that's it's not good. If the cop was, I don't understand why, because the guy was, one of the cops, it appears, was walking, like, disarmed the guy, turned around, walked away, and had the gun that he disarmed from the individual still in his hand. And you could kind of tell by the way he was holding it, it didn't seem like it was something like he unholstered his pistol, but I don't know, I'm not an expert. It just seems kind of strange that I guess he was there to disarm the guy and then turned around and left or whatever, and then they shot and killed him. Like, so I don't really know. But one person said they seen him pull a pistol, and I guess yeah, I didn't catch that. My eyes aren't so good, but I did look, you know, watch the thing a couple times to see if that is indeed what happened. But I couldn't see. I mean, there are multiple angles. This might be something that relies entirely on eyewitness testimony, right? But that video that I've seen, man, sure shit looks like that cop had a gun in his hand and he wasn't holding it like it was his. He was like holding it like, you know, like he just pulled it from somewhere, not necessarily like he was going to use it, right? And they have already stated that the guy had one gun and two clips. Well, having two clips, you know, what are you going to do with that? Throw the bullets at the guy? You know? So that's about where I'm at with it. And the thing is that the constitutional people, you know, they're so quick to label it domestic terrorist. How? That's the thing. Okay, so when I was saying earlier, like, what reason do they have to believe that this person was there to commit a crime? Because he didn't look like, right? At least not with a firearm. If he was being rowdy and disorderly or whatever, that's one thing. But for them to say he went there with the intent to cause maximum harm, you're like, well, his opportunity to do that existed and he didn't. So what grounds are there to make that accusation? Absolutely none. It's yet again one of those, the government trying to rewrite the definition of what constitutes domestic terrorists. You know, and I hate to say, man, there are a lot of these conservative talk show people that for the last 20 years, all their bread and butter has been ranting and raving about the demilitarization of the militarization of the police and the unlawful treatment and, you know, discrimination against lawful gun owners and trying to turn them into domestic terrorists when they aren't. So yeah, I don't know. Resisting arrest, probably not a good idea. Did they have a reason to really arrest the guy to begin with? Yeah, I don't really know, but it's yet again not a death sentence, and the government is, I think, a little too eager to come out and label it as something that it isn't, because there is citable definitions of, or citable instances of domestic terrorism in the United States, unfortunately, and that being said, anytime you try to label something as domestic terrorism when it isn't, sort of dilutes the definition or the meaning of it, right? So, um, right, kind of ridiculous, in my opinion. What does this guy want? What do you want? So I hope it all works out. I mean, obviously, for the best. I don't know what that would consist of, but unfortunately, someone got murdered yet again today, and there's a all too flimsy reason as for why. But I mean, you can see at one point in time, the one guy does like put his arm around and tries to like get someone in a headlock. I can't tell who the person is, and the cops start pepper spraying both of them, and the guy's, I guess, he's got into a fight with somebody or what. Yeah, I don't really know. And but then like, where's the reason why the first instance of this, I was harping so much on this girl that was shot, saying they're gonna try and say she's got an LGBT flag, she's a this, she's a that, all this stuff that turned out to be, well, it's sort of all irrelevant, isn't it? Um, and now here we are, someone that doesn't meet their criteria or whatever, apparently a lawful a person practicing their Second Amendment lawfully, I guess, right? It's like, surely he didn't practice the Second Amendment incorrectly here, unless they can prove that he did try to pull a firearm. But I don't see it in the video, man. I really don't. No one's able to get a picture of the thing yet. Another one of those, if they come out with more proof of one thing or another, obviously, whatever the decision, or the overall decision after, like, when more of the facts are on the table or whatever. But the thing is that, this is, I think, just as flimsy. What's the excuse this time, right? What's the excuse this time for um, killing this guy, unfortunately? Because he's not some loony left wing. He was a fucking ER nurse. You know what I mean? Looked like a nice guy. Um, got into a tussle, it looked like, and now he's dead. And I don't think that's a just reason for killing somebody. I really don't. I don't think that's a just reason for killing somebody, rather. Yeah, well, anytime, like I say last time, right? I was upset about that. Uh, until we know more, though, I mean, obviously, I'm just as upset about shit today. But at the end of the day, this person did appear to be acting aggressively. Now, in some way, shape, or form, though, that's not. You have someone on the ground, getting beat by about 5 or 6 people, eerily resemblant of Rodney King, end up getting shot and killed, and the government is there to say the guys, like, they thwarted a mass shooter. Yeah, you lose me on that one. Yeah, you lost me on that one for sure. Especially given the last time, it's like, what are you trying to make yourself or paint yourself to be? Like, is that how they really calculate crime statistics? Like, it makes you wonder. Then it makes you wonder. That's all. Because it's now 2 instances up until, uh, I mean, we all know like real domestic terrorism looks like, right? I would think these last two instances are clear cut, dry, not in, you know, obviously not domestic terrorism. You would think like there's got to be a certain amount of plotting and planning, I believe, that goes into that kind of thing, right? Uh, Being a lawfully, you know, there to protest. Apparently, there's cops getting in the guy's face. He gets whatever. I don't know if he does or doesn't assault an officer, but I can't even tell which one's which in the situation. And I see a guy getting jumped by about 5 or 6 people, and I see a cop walk away from a person getting beat with a gun in his hand that doesn't look like his. You know, based on the way he's carrying it, I could be wrong. And then the guy gets shot and killed. So at what point in time, it's like, at what point in time were they really in fear for their life, or did one of them yell he's got a gun and the other responded in a way that he shouldn't have? Yeah, I don't know, man. It's not good though. Those people, they're tired of this shit. I think they should be, more than likely. Wish his family the best. I hope they sue the shit out of him. I hope they win in court. I hope the cops that did it to him go to prison. Um, if that is all, if it looks exactly like it looks, right? If he was disarmed and if he was disarmed and they shot and killed him, yeah, I hope they get sent to prison where they belong. It seems like they're just my argument is, like, I keep telling people, right? These are people that are trained to deal with the situation in which the people that they're attempting to apprehend or police or govern or whatever are people that, for anybody who wants to sit there and argue, have limited rights in the United States as non-citizens, right? Especially if they've been suspected of committing a crime and they have all the, like, lawful paperwork to prove it or whatever, you know, to serve a warrant. So that being said, I know there are some lefties that don't agree with that kind of opinion, that, well, these are all people, and I agree, you know, they are all people, but they have limited rights in the United States while they're here criminally. On top of that, some of these people are wanted for doing things that are pretty terrible. So, but the thing is that's the type of people that these people are trained to handle, and their training to handle those type of individuals specifically is spilling over into them policing a group of citizens that don't have limited rights in the United States, that do have constitutional protections and freedom. And I'm not a legal scholar. I don't necessarily know the entirety of, like, the Supreme Court's decisions on what constitutional rights a person here illegally has been or hasn't been granted. But that being said, I think there is some precedent that they aren't necessarily afforded all of the protections that an American citizen gets, especially if they're here criminally. No, I agree with that. But they're training these people to act as a pseudo-military force in the United States against the American people. On top of that, or de facto, whatever, you know, and they're training to handle these people that don't necessarily have some of these protections that American citizens have under the Constitution, is spilling over onto people that do have those protections, and it has to stop, period. It isn't right. So that's just, like, my opinion on the whole thing, though, really. And it seems like every time something like this happens, they just double down, like they're going for broke. Yeah, I mean, they've quite literally lost me on this shit here, in all honesty. It's yeah, I don't know what to say. The last thing bothered me, and it seems like this might even be more flimsy than that. You know what I mean? they examine the footage, we'll know more. But you're gonna see. I don't think that it's not looking good for team shooting and killing a guy. Yeah, it does bother the shit out of me. This narrative that like, they thwarted a mass shooting is what they're making it sound like. They didn't. I believe, based on what I can see so far, unjustly shot and murdered some guy that probably just needed a fucking nap and a day off, more than likely. Having a bad hair day or whatever. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. Tragedy, which didn't happen, obviously. And here we are, probably, you know, how much of this goes on that doesn't ever get noticed, though, is the thing. Like, how much of this happens and it never gets on the news, you know? And I mean, in all honesty, just because there are people that are here illegally doesn't mean they have no rights. You know what I mean? So it does make you wonder. Um, Speaking up for the little guy here, I guess, if they're willing to do this to the American people, you know what I mean? It's like, even when they're dealing with criminals and stuff, people here illegally, people wanted for doing terrible things, whatever, there's still some guidelines, you know. I'm not necessarily sure what all of that is, you know, as far as in regards to people here illegally or whatever, but at the end of the day, there's some code of ethics and decorum and like procedure and how they are and are not supposed to conduct themselves, and it makes you wonder, uh, if they're doing this to the American people that do have those protections, you know what I mean, then what are they doing to the people that don't? You know what I mean? Chances are it's yet again indicative of a larger problem. Come on, heal me. Oh, we won. It's shit, man. It's shit, isn't it? Yeah, man, it sucks. Like, your fucking narrative is like, their narrative is falling apart. What was it? Doesn't matter. His politics now. How are these people not up in arms about this shit? I don't mean literally, good God, you know what I mean? Or actually, just like, you know what I mean? Before I get labeled in all honesty, I mean, before I get labeled a fucking domestic terrorist, yeah, no, I can be careful now. It seems like that's the times we're in, man. I'm not trying to be a firebrand or anything, but like, if you can watch a guy get beat by 6 or 7 other people, get disarmed, rather, you know, carrying a firearm in Second Amendments, it seems, right, at some point in time there, will follow the laws that applies to them. And I've now seen 2 instances where people have lost their lives by people exhibiting the exact same behavior and mentality that I've witnessed and dealt with myself in my own past. And I don't like it because that could have been me one of those days. You know, it really could have. And that is one of those things where I do say I have all the video proof. I have all of it on camera. Thank God. And I'll make it public eventually. But, right. Neither here nor there for now. But, you know. I wouldn't be as familiar with what they are or are not allowed to do if I hadn't gone through it myself, right? And needless to say, yeah, no, I won in court, and they had to sit there and take their lashings as much as they could. People got fired, people got demoted, people got transferred. You know, not one of them ever apologized. Um, they still harass me to this day. You know, but if they ever get the opportunity to. But they lost, basically. And I hate seeing it anywhere else, man, whether it's Minnesota or Tennessee or wherever. I hate seeing it happen to anybody else. I really do. Unless they can produce a frame of footage that shows the guy brandishing a firearm for no reason whatsoever. Right. But now, you know, it's what political narrative there were, you know, where people draw the battle lines as far as their ideology is concerned. There's a lot of people that will you know, they'll eat their tie or their hat until they don't have it, you know, until they have no hat or tie left to eat. And hopefully we get to the point here soon where, you know, everybody's tired of eating all their clothing, and they say or do something about it. Because this last thing here with that woman getting shot in her car, I mean, that was my, like, oh, fuck it. No, I don't agree with this. Now we have an instance where whatever political narrative there were to be driven by somebody that was done in a way to, I guess, as a form of crowd control, you know, to kind of. But now we see where the political narrative has completely disintegrated. You know, where the people are like, where they, well, we'll just let this one instance of police abuse and oversight, or whatever you want to call it, egregious use of authority, um, criminals behavior, right? People behaving as criminals, parading around as law enforcement. Um, well, let's slide this once, right? And then if it happens again, we're really going to have something to say. So I think today was probably that point for some people, especially people that are, Second Amendment savvy, right? Needless to say, um, the police chief of Minnesota, who probably is an expert on everything, uh, said that um, their first thing they came out and said was, what was it? It was immediately that it was a lawful gun carrying legal U.S. citizen, right? So that's a shift in political narrative, which meant at some point in time they were willing to try and sell the public this lie um, with this Renee Good, and now they aren't. You know what I mean? That was like, I think probably everybody's like, okay, well, I can't necessarily walk back all these statements now, uh, but the next one I won't, right? And I think today we've seen that this was another instance where the people that thought one way had an opinion that public opinion that differed from what their true beliefs were. You know what I mean? Now they are hopefully um, as fed up with the shit as I am. So yeah, it's shitty, man. I wish things were better for everybody, really. At the end of the day. But if they prove that that guy was disarmed, it's like, what what amount of qualified immunity is there in that situation, if any? I'm still not clear on qualified immunity. Is there like a board that determines when it isn't applicable? Whereas, like, I think what qualified immunity states is that there's a certain amount of procedural error allowed on law enforcement's part in the process of, you know, stopping crime or whatever. Like, they're allowed a certain amount of margin of error, like like you don't toss the case out because the cop didn't wear a seatbelt on the way, you know what I mean, kind of thing. Like, there's a certain amount of procedural error allowed uh, when trying to apprehend somebody or serve a warrant or whatever. And I'm not necessarily sure on all of that, how it works. With at what time do they say, well, yeah, you get stripped, or you don't qualify for qualified immunity or whatever. You get stripped of your qualified immunity at what point? Yeah, I wish I knew more. I really don't know a whole lot about that process, but good God, dude, a whole bunch of shit going on, isn't it? Ain't nothing to do here. Ugh. Ah, fucking ice block. What shit going on? Yeah, I mean, what were they saying? One of these guys, I think it's eerily reminiscent of the fact that all this not October the 7th, but January 6th stuff, right? Like the day after January 6th, we had all this shit go on, and it's like um, as much as I didn't pay attention to any of the January 6th stuff going on because I was dealing with a lot in my own life, right? Um, when you get to the point where suddenly, like, the criteria for being deemed a hero is getting to be more and more ridiculous. It's like we all know what heroes look like. I wouldn't think a hero has anything to do with like political grandstanding or whatever. Had nobody died that day, that guy would have gotten reprimanded for putting himself in harm's way. Narrative, you're like, yeah, yeah, I don't buy it. That's shit. That's not my water elemental. I'm about to skin my teeth on that one. 11,000 health. Oh, fuck. Oh, jeez, Rick. Looks like we got ourselves out of a bind there. Oh, he pulled these. I thought it was an enemy. Wait, where's his fucking name? Oh, there it is. It's in dark green. Normally bright green. It's because he's in a different group. But there we go. Thank you, guy. That sucks. Where's my healer? Someone that can pick the flag? Somebody that can pick the flag up? Good. Yikes. Well, worth a try. Can't say I didn't do my job there. Golly, there's a bunch of damage. Yeah, woke up to terrible news today yet again. I need to get to where my camera doesn't flip around when I keep moving or whatever. Come on, I'm just trying to get it to like somebody conscious enough to carry the fucking thing. uh, my fucking water elemental. I'm jerking off those guys over there. Fuck. I'm loads better than I was a few weeks ago, man. PvE frost is shit. Now that something else terrible's happened because nobody said anything the first time, right? Now one of yours, right, is dead. One of those guys that really stands for the things that you believe in. Just like this woman probably did, despite being slightly politically confused in some way, shape, or form, you know? People don't like getting bullied. People don't like getting yanked out of their goddamn cars by people dressed like military, police, and all this shit. It's like, they aren't from that town, you know what I mean? Some of the shit seems extremely disrespectful. The way I understand it is, if you're like a guest somewhere, like the law of the land applies to you, not us follow your law, unless you're an emperor or king or something. They make an exception, I guess, but when it comes down to like the things that have always made sense, it was like, yeah, you're here on our land. You follow our rules, our law. We don't adhere to what you say is or isn't law. You know, you're not even from here. You know what I mean? Your ideological vested in from what these people believe in. And you can tell by the amount of people that are in the streets currently that no, they're really ruffling some feathers when they shouldn't be. And I hate to say one of theirs, but you get what I'm saying. A person that doesn't fit the political cookie cutter narrative that, you know, put anybody that puts a LGBT flag on their Twitter profile as a domestic terrorist is kind of the way they're headed. Ridiculous and a bit extreme, but I mean, well, let's consider here the events in the last 3 or 4 weeks. What's kind of unfurled in front of everybody's eyes, right? Um, there are a whole lot of people that are not condemning the the murder of a woman in the middle of the day when not every option for self-defense was exhausted. They went straight to the nuclear option, which was shooting and killing somebody, which not even arguably, it does put people in more danger than it does take them out of danger. And the justification for deadly force sort of resides on, are you doing it to keep yourself and other people safe? Well, if what you're doing is putting people in more danger, then I would say no, right? Jumping out of the way, stepping out of the way, not standing there and try to stare down a moving vehicle. It's like, okay, if she tries to run you over, step out of the way. You will win the court case. You know what I'm saying? Lady will go to jail. She'll be probation, parole, jail, prison, whatever, for trying to run over an officer. That's what we have chosen for you to do. That's your job. That's what the people pay you to do. And for that reason, for one reason, you didn't decide, or you decided that, you know, that wasn't what that person was going to do that day. You know, it's frustrating, that's all, to say the least, right? And now, because nobody said or did anything the first time, here we are yet again with um, seemingly all the labels and stickers, and now it's like what seems to be a good individual with an honest profession, not a paid agitator, obviously, certainly not there to conduct a mass shooting, obviously, getting into a verbal disagreement or argument and ended up losing his life for trying to practice his First and Second Amendment, familiar with, right? Like, if you change the costumes around and put this in a movie, you would understand, like, you would know clear cut and dry who the bad guys were. But since it's real life, you know, there's a lot of people that are emotionally attached to the Trump movement, and they should be, right? I think Trump's a great president, but at some point in time, what's right is right, and what's wrong is wrong, and this is another instance of something that appears to be wrong. You know, or the bad guys on Star Wars, right? They all kind of have that. They give them that pseudo-Nazi attire that they put them in movies, right? They make them look like stylized to look like fascists or Nazis or whatever. without looking exactly like them. Um, if you were to dress up all the players in this scenario here as movie characters and put them in a fascistic looking outfit, um, you would say clear cut and dry. Yeah, those are the bad guys. They shouldn't be doing this. You know, you don't even have to tell a humanizing story to get that opinion. You know what I mean? And I'm not calling anybody a fascist. I'm not calling anybody a Nazi yet, but it's shitty that they're doing this. So, well, I wish you'd carry the flag, Shadow Priest. You take less damage than I do. Don't they? Increases armor from items, right? Fuck, I can never get our flag for whatever reason. I can always get the enemy flag pretty good. I just, all this fucking shit, this shit gets in the way. All right, I'm gonna sit here for a moment. feel that way about it, you know. I felt that way about the last thing. But to sit there and say the guy was there, come on, yeah. They got him sit there eating fucking cake and donuts with the guys. The cops had fucking shot and killed him like 10 minutes before. Maybe not the exact ones, but to sit there and say he went there with the intent to cause bodily harm, man, you people are out of control. You are going for broke for some reason. I don't know what it is, but it's not good. I don't understand why, really, you know. Might have to read. Well, I'd say I wouldn't quite go as far as to say Nazi at this point, but fascist, yeah, I think so. Or anything though, collect, you know, any sort of. The next argument will be, if I had to guess, right? Well, if we can't really prosecute what everything an illegal immigrant does, so for everything they do, suddenly you're paying the price for it. You're like, for everything they do, suddenly you're paying the price for it. You're like, that's not necessarily fair, because what I'm trying to say here is that um, I agree with how you're executing it. That's all. I don't agree with how you. So we have the same goal in mind, but we can all make our own decisions, though. And I just say that I'm always so tired of the government trying to lump me in with a bunch of other people that are not the same as me. I'm not saying I'm better or they're worse. I'm just saying I'm always fucking getting lumped into a category, you know, for what I believe in, and apples to oranges, you know, in comparison. And, you know, I get tired of the shit being told what I am by the government, you know. Dude, why are we disconnected?